Right, hello Lloyd. Welcome, mate.
Hello, Tony. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good. First of all, before we get straight down to it with the this week's, but family and everybody okay?
All good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, all safe and well. So, yeah, just abiding by the rules and staying in as much as possible, mate. So, all good. Thank you.
Great, that's the way to do it. Well, last time we spoke, we finished off with the Herne Bay game when we won 3-0, and that was a real nice uplifter for the club. That was followed, unfortunately, by losing 4-0 to Sevenoaks away. And that was a strange game. I mean, there were 33 fouls in that game, from both sides. 33, yep. I checked one of Ron's write-ups. Sorry, Les's write-ups. No, Ron's write-ups. Les's pictures. And, yeah, 33 fouls. Unbelievable. We went close a few times. Melbourne did all right. But in the end, we've spoken about it before. It was just one of those games, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a tale of two halves. I think it was 0-0 at half time. I think, and I vaguely remember us coming at the time, and I wouldn't have said we were quite comfortable. I don't think we were able to stamp authority on the game as much as we would have liked, from what I can remember. But they certainly pressed us really high, and they set a really high block and pushed us really high up the pitch. And to be honest, a nice 3G pitch that they've got, it encouraged us to play a little bit. And they, to be honest, they tactically got it right against us. I think they were flying quite high as well in the league at that time. They started off really brightly, as in their league campaign. So they were certainly one of the sides at the top end of the table. And in the second half, we were very, very poor, and it was really, really frustrating afternoon in the end.
Yeah, and I say nothing much came out of it. It's always a learning curve, even when it's a defeat. There's always something you as a manager you take from the game, positive or negative. So you can't dismiss it as not being, anything that you learn from. But then going on from that, we were Folkestone in the FA Cup, but that was at home. Over 500 at the Belmont, so good crowd. But we didn't come out winners, I'm afraid.
No, we didn't. And to be honest, it was I know we touched upon how we set up in the Herne Bay game in the last chat we did, and we carried that on in the Sevenoaks fixture. And again, we went with the same setup with the Folkestone game. We played three at the back with two wing backs, and sort of the method really to what we were working with was obviously expected their three front players that they had at the time, Folkestone. So I think it was Ira Jackson. I think Jason Dos Santos got injured actually, or he might have started but then came off, whoever. And then with Johannes Horst out on the left. And what they did really, really well, which really, really nullified us, is their forward line just played really, really narrow. So it ended up them playing 3v3 against our centre halves, which then meant our wing backs then just kept dropping back defensively, and we just had no outlet. And to be honest, they were just really, really impressive that day. I spoke to Neil Huggs afterwards, and he just said, it was one of the better performances we've had in a long time. But I just felt we just didn't really. It was a free hit for us. I think that was the thing for us. No one expected us to beat Folkestone, but I think we just came out of that one and not really disappointed that we just didn't give it a good go. And I remember that feeling amongst the players and the group afterwards, that if we'd have gone out, all guns blazing and given it a good go, but I don't think we didn't really threaten them in any way, to be perfectly honest, although be up against a really good side. And I think that was the catalyst for me then that day, on the back of the Sevenoaks, on the back of that the Folkestone game. That was the catalyst then to sort of say, right, okay, I need to make a few changes. And I think if we look at the next game afterwards, you'll probably notice that there was a couple of extra, a couple of new names in the side that I was already trying to work on the week before, just unable to get them over the line. But things certainly changed after that.
I think the fact that Folkestone's had such a wonderful season puts it all into context. I mean, for a large majority of it, they were top of the league. I think when play was actually suspended, or the league was suspended, was I right in saying that they were about third and pretty much set a playoff place, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they just dropped out of second. I think Craig Wanderers just pipped them into second place on almost the last weekend of before it all came to a halt. But yeah, no doubt there was a really impressive side, lots and lots of quality players that they had. I just felt from our point of view really that we maybe could have got at them a little bit more and put them on the back foot and be a little bit more fearless, but I think credit where credit due. I think the way that Folkestone handled the situation and the way that they played, they were just able to sort of force us on the back foot all the time. And I suppose it's a sign of a good side that they were able to implement their style on us a lot better than we were trying to do to them. Which sadly, like I said, it just resulted in a pretty flat performance from us. And one that we really didn't deserve to get an awful lot out of. But it was nice to get. It was a tough. Always going to be a tough draw, but yeah, there you go.
It was right. Let's go to some questions because we've had some stuff come in from the supporters, and one or two of them quite interesting. This one's a bit of a weird. I'm just going to throw this at you. This one's, he calls himself Simon Daniels, aka Dan Simmons. It sounds like he might be a mate of yours. I don't know. Question for Lloyd: how many bright orange pinnacles does he lose on an average league?
I can't believe it. Yeah, I know. Well, actually, Dan's a family member of ours, family member of mine, and yeah, every time we used to go play golf, he always used to claim that I used to lose loads of balls, which it's a complete opposite. So he's making that up. I'm not having that one. I'm not having that one. He's got more balls and more clubs over the wall every time he missed a shot. So no, I'm not having that.
Okay, the rest of them are pretty sensible questions. So just let that one just brush by.
That's good.
When we spoke last week, I mentioned in passing, it's very funny this because people keep going on about my clock on the wall, which isn't a clock. It's a tide clock.
Right.
So okay. How long it's going to be before the tide comes up. My son-in-law brought it for me as a gift. But right. Okay. Quite correctly, the battery did need replacing, so it will be moving in future.
Someone had brought that to my attention, I must admit.
Yeah. Well. This is something as well. It was just an off-guard comment when I spoke to you about your hip and said something about you. Now it's recovered. You'll be jumping up and down for joy. And Dave Weatherhead is one of our local supporters, their loyal supporter. This is exactly as he said it to me. When Tony asked Lloyd about his hip, I thought he was going to ask him to do 100 laps of his garden for our GoFundMe page. And he's put, any chance? Question mark.
God, you know what? I had to go and post a letter in I posted and even walking sort of 800 yards, you don't realise how much muscle atrophy has occurred. So to be honest, I think 100 rounds, even around my garden that you can't see, it's not the biggest. But even 100 times around that would wear me out. But touching on that, it's an interesting one actually because the boys on our WhatsApp group they send over the amount of work that they've been doing. So they've all got apps on their phone so they can send out. They're all doing the 5K runs and they're all kind of like getting a bit competitive with it, which is great. So they're all sending each other, I've been doing this, I've been doing 12, 15-mile bike rides. Even Laney's getting involved as well. So there's, wow. it's almost like a little in-house competition that people are trying to beat each other, and that's great. So they are taking, from the players' perspective, they are taking care of themselves. Sadly, I think it'll be a little while longer before I'll be able to join them. But who knows? Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Who knows? Well, good luck anyway. I hope it goes well. Okay, next question is from Jeffrey Collins. Is two questions actually. Part one, Lloyd, are there any current rules governing the way that football should be played that you would like to see changed? And he's put here, Tony, I would invite you to say what you think too. I think what he's getting at is, under the current system, is there a way? And I saw a little bit of a piece about this on the net the other day. Take the view of the way that the game flows now. Would you like to see the advantage given more to the attacking side, or would it be better if you gave the defenders a bit more clout? I don't quite know how that would work, but
yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah,
it's an interesting one. I've never really given it much thought, to be perfectly honest. On touching upon the first thing that you said, obviously, the advantage to the attacker, etc., etc. What I've noticed, or as I said, I think there's always been the opinion, sadly, that the referees at this level, they do try their best. Sometimes that you do get some really good referees, and sadly at this level you get some really poor referees. I think sometimes I'm confusing them in that aspect. What is gaining an advantage? What is slightly an advantage as opposed to a disadvantage? I think that could probably end up just causing more trouble or more problem what it's worth for sort of officials at our level. That's my opinion. Changing anything else, I don't really know, to be perfectly honest, and I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. The only thing that I think is the only thing that I would like to see changed is just the officials. Talking about officials, and I don't mean to harp on about it, but just being a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? To be a little bit more approachable, to make sure that, as I said, they, if there's any decisions that go that, that don't go your way or go their way, whatever, then being able to back that up with a chat. I think that sometimes, I know it's all heat at the moment. I know they've got the rule that sort of 15, 20 minutes you're not allowed to speak to a referee after a game, purely because, as I said, it can, emotions high. I do think sometimes that when it's important that the referees do back those decisions up and they come speak to you about it, and you can be open, whether it's both managers together, whatever it will be. But sometimes just being making things a little bit more transparent, because otherwise the amount of times that we've all been on the wrong end of dodgy decisions I don't agree with. And when the referee does come up to you and speak to you and let you know, I'm sorry, Lloyd, I genuinely didn't thought this happened, or whatever. I think there's that argument that's really that maybe just been a little bit more transparent and open to managers. I think would go a long way as to appeasing the way that we feel sometimes.
Okay, that's good. Well done. Thanks for answering it as honestly as you feel. This again is from Jeffrey College. This is his second question. This is a bit contentious. Now, if you feel like you want to body swerve this, by all means do. Lloyd, he said, regarding last season and the comings and goings of players, are there any players who moved on of their own choice, or are there any players that you chose to release that you still wish were now at the club? And he's put in here, if you find this a difficult question to answer because of the sensitivities, please just ignore it. He's put in brackets, you may pretend it was never asked.
One thing, I think there was, talking of the season just gone, I don't believe there was any player. There was a couple of mutual decisions. I think that's key. I think there were a couple of decisions, sadly, that I had to make. I think more mutual decisions than anything else. And I think that's encouraging, really, that you're able to. I've always prided myself on being quite open and honest to players, and just make sure that sadly, big players are going to disagree with some of the decisions I make, and some of the like I said, it's you're not always going to please everyone. I'd like to think that every player that I've dealt with have always been upfront and honest with me, and spoke to me in a way that has said, if they have got feelings of moving on, whether it will be players that want to go out and gain more, play more football, or decisions that I've had to make in releasing players for whatever reason it will be. They've always been really amicable, and I think that's key. And there doesn't need to be that side of things where it's there's no, it's not amicable. Players that I wish to have kept last year, probably I believed in all those players that I signed, to be honest, and I don't want to sit on the fence here by saying that I felt that was a wrong signing or that was a wrong signing. I don't believe any of them were, to be honest. Sadly, just the way that the way that non-league football at our level is, it's not always doable to be able to, you know, to retain as many players, and sadly some players do get unhappy because of a lack of football or whatever it will be. So no, I don't think there was any players that looking back on, I think were incorrect, or should I say, any players now to bring back in. What was happened has happened, and that's part of the course.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, when you've had a player for a while, you've just got to thank him for his work that he's done for the club, and basically within your own head move on, you know, because one door closes, another opens, doesn't it?
Yeah, I completely agree, and more so at our level, Tony, as I'm sure you know, it's not, you're not signing players on 2, 3, 4, 5 year contracts. It's not quite like that. So the turnover of players, sadly, at our level, sadly being a club like we are as well, and I'm not trying to bring us here, but if you've got, you know, some clubs with bigger budgets in our leagues or in our areas, in, you know, whether it's a league above or even in our respective league, you will find that, you know, players can have their heads turned, and that is understandable, because, you know, players aren't earning fantastic money. They're earning money that someone offers them, you know. It's not like Premier League team where if someone's on £100,000 a week and then another club offers them, you know, 20 grand a week, it's probably not going to make the be-all, and it's not the be-all and end-all for them. However, some players at our level, you know, giving them an extra £100 a week that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So, you know, I do understand that side of things, but yeah, sadly, it is quite. The turnover on the volume of player turnover is quite high, sadly, but. I think we've done quite well. I don't think we've had many turnover of players, to be perfectly honest. Not improved. It's a nice close-knit group we've got.
Right. Last question this week. There's a couple of other ones that I'm holding back over. I've got one from Ben, another one from Les, and another one as well that I'm going to hold over to the next time. Cool. Just ask this next question, and then we touch on Hythe in the Velocity Trophy. And then the last game this session is, away in the Velocity Trophy, and then home in the league for Haywards Heath. So, but the question from Les Briggs is this, and you'll like this one. I particularly like it as well. My questions for Lloyd are: what is the news on the injuries to Marcus Evans and to Liam Dixon? And if you are in contact with those players and all the other players, please pass on my best wishes too.
No, it's very nice. It's very nice. Yes, so Marcus Evans, I spoke to him 48 hours ago. So he's recovered. He's had his surgery on his knee. So he had an ACL reconstruction, so a knee ligament injury, reconstruction of his knee. It's quite a common injury. It's a lot more common now than it probably was a long time ago. The sad bit is that he's at a stage of his rehabilitation that he probably needs more physio, and because of the current climate, it's not available to him at this moment in time. So he's kind of finding that things are just sort of stagnated a little bit, and flatlined purely in his recovery, purely because of the situation we find ourselves in. So we're hopeful. I spoke to Marcus and said he can't wait to get back, and we'll be looking at, I think, you know, start of the season maybe a little bit too soon for him. I think he had the operation in January or February, I believe it was. Oh no, sorry, that's a lie. I think it was November, December time he had it. So I think we'll be probably looking at just after the start of the season, and hopefully sooner rather than later. And Liam Dixon just get a continued reoccurrence of the injury that he suffered away at Guernsey. He landed very awkwardly on his ankle and kind of rolled it and twisted it, and his Achilles flared up. And he was almost taking one step forward, two steps back, sadly. Now, I know Dicko as a man, as a person, and I've worked with him for a long time. He's tough as old boots, and he was always willing to say, listen, Blackie, if you need me, I'll run through walls. It's not a problem. Sadly, I think what happened was not only were the players doing well as well, Ollie Rowe, Tom, since he came in, and Tom Bryant as well, and obviously we lost Connor Sanders with his shoulder, and I'll touch upon him. But as I said, Dicko's injury was more of a case of it just kept niggling and kept niggling, and probably a longer period of rest and recuperation was what he needed, which has happened. And Connor Sanders, on his dislocated shoulder, he was due an operation, but again, it looks like that's been postponed purely because of the situation we find ourselves in. So Connor's situation, we'll keep in tabs on, and hopefully, it settles down itself if there's over this period. But I think we'll just have to wait and see how Connor's recovery goes.
Right, that's great. Thank you for that. I'm sure everyone that's asked a question will be delighted with your answer. Right, so another couple of games that we'll just have a chat through. Away to Hythe in the Velocity Trophy. This is a strange one. I can't get my head around this point system. We drew 2-2 all time. And we ended up with a point each. Hythe won 6-5 on penalties, but Hythe were 2-0 up with 85 minutes gone. From somewhere else, we got a draw.
It was. We changed. We'd made a few changes. I think Tom Bryant had a little bit of a niggly injury, so we rested Tom. Josh Spencer had just been sort of brought into the fold as well. He'd been with us for a few games. So Josh got his chance, and Josh did very well. Sadly, made a mistake for one of the goals, I believe. I think did he give away the penalty, or was it the second goal? Can't quite remember. But it was a chance for us to be able to look at a couple of things, and like I touched upon in the previous one, and again probably over the period of the last two games, which was obviously the Sevenoaks or Folkestone and the Sevenoaks games, still wasn't quite happy, and we'll move on to the Haywards Heath one in a minute, and you can see how we finally got to something that I was a lot more comfortable and happy with. But I remember being 2-0 down, and then Marcus Elliott came on. Again, I was really pleased with Marcus, and I just want to touch upon Marcus. What a fantastic professional he was. Great guy to have around with us as well. And he came on and got the 2 goals to make it and pull it back to 2-2. So that was pleasing. I think that was Steve Watt's first game in charge for Hythe as well. So all the players were really G'd up and ramped up, because obviously that was his first game. So we backed. We pulled it back to 2-2, and then it went to a penalty shootout, which was a bit of a lottery. But that's it wasn't the. I wasn't too concerned, as I said, from a penalty shootout point of view. But it was pleasing to get the 2 goals back anyway. Showed a bit of spirit, and I think just begin to find the things were beginning to turn for us a little bit.
Yeah, it's good. And then home in the league to Haywards Heath. Well, that was a pretty decent game actually. But they went down to 10 men late in the first half, and everybody thought, okay, right, we're on now. We're going to do this. 1-0 up at half time we were, and it stayed that way right until almost the end, and they got an equaliser.
Yeah, that was free kick. Yeah, that's right. It was it a free kick? I think it was the lad who stepped inside and bent one top corner.
Oh, yes, it was. He did.
But that was I believe if we look back on, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that was the first game that Marshall Ratton was with us and John Ufua were with us. So we'd made, as I said, I'd looked to make sure that I was able to try and get 2 wingers in that are pretty sharp. Tarek had left us the week before, and I'd released Alex Anderson that week as well. Something like that. And Marshall was a guy that I was really interested in the summer, and John I've been keeping tabs on, and heard some good reports. Wingers in like we did, and it immediately made a big impact on us, a big impression on us. I felt we were. They're a good side, and I know they probably haven't had the greatest season, but they certainly were a big, strong physical side, and how we dealt with them that day was really pleasing for us. And again, I touched upon the Hythe one, how things were beginning to turn for us, but I think that Haywards Heath game was just beginning of, okay, right, great, we're finding our feet here now, we're getting a side together that I'm a lot more comfortable with, and the balance in the way that we wanted to operate was correct. And Marshall and John certainly played a big part in that. And to be honest, Haywards Heath didn't really have many chances, but it's just a lad that came on for the last 10 minutes and then stuck corner, probably went against the run of play, to be honest. And it was pleasing in one aspect that we were against a side that was decent, and we should have won. But again, I know we've touched upon this. I keep saying that, but we touched on this one. Lost, points lost when we were in probably felt 3 points was probably what. But I was pleased with how we performed.
Yes, it was a pretty decent performance, but as you say, it's at the end of the day, it's results business, and that hurts, doesn't it? Like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's been good again, Lloyd. I'll just round up by sending out a plea, not a plea, because we've had a few come in, which I'm pleased about. A few more questions for Lloyd, please, supporters. He won't be afraid to answer any, and he puts his head on the line and just says it as it is. And I must say, Lloyd, I don't want to blow smoke up your what's it, but a lot of the people have been saying what a good job you are, and it's a pleasure to have a football manager that speaks his mind and knows about football. So that's really nice.
No, so it's really nice. It's really pleasing. It's a lovely thing to say. But as I said, I think it's important that I say that there's one small cog in the big wheel that's going on here. And to be honest, as I said, the work that everyone's doing behind the scenes, whether it's the staff, the players, everything. Yeah, it's a really great place to be.
Right, Lloyd. Okay, mate. We'll call it a day there, and stay safe. And everybody out there, don't forget, stay indoors. I heard a great thing the other day, and it's so simple. Everybody's got the best defence against this virus in their homes. There's two things: shut the front door, leave it shut, and wash your hands. That's it.
Absolutely.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well done, buddy. Thanks. Bye now.